down the street that's not being used is the fire department. We were told that we were going to get a switcheroo. They were going to build a new fire department, and then police were going to move back up onto Seneca. I think that having the police on Seneca Street would be a huge improvement into the community. Give us a little more sense of, the criminals aren't going to want to hang out where the cops are. So do you know anything about that? Have you heard anything? Do you think we can, what can we do to drive the direction to make that happen?
Yeah, well, what I would suggest is that it seems to me 2 weeks in a row there is a very large crowd here of citizens and people who live in this neighborhood who are concerned about this neighborhood. And so in my view, what I would do is continue this and invite the commissioner of police here, or start with Chief
Strobel.
Yeah, Chief Strobel over on the A District first, and maybe have him come over. I know there have been some attempts over the last several years, and I know the councilman and prior councilmen have asked for consideration on Seneca Street or business districts to have more of a presence.
Sure, you're going to spend all this money and put in trees and beautiful plants and stuff, and people are going to come down and just totally disregard it in the evening because there's no business, there's no activity, and it's an easy thing to trash.
Yeah.
It's just a real
So
shame.
I think that is something that we can kind of do together, and I would be willing to work with the councilman and with others to try to convince those who make those decisions in terms of security decisions, an option for us. I also would like to point out, I'm not suggesting this yet, I would suggest it down the road after we have executed it's probably at the end of the day, it'll probably be $1.8 million of your money, taxpayer money, up and down Seneca Street. And after that's executed, if we still feel that there is vandalism problems and they're loitering and the things that are happening that are out of control, the option that we have certainly is to try to convince the mayor and the commissioner to help us. The idea, first, and I'll be specific on this, the idea of sending a couple of policemen on a bike or on a scooter between 9 and 5 in the daytime is not impressive. To me, that's a public relations ploy.
Right.
The time that should happen is late at night when the businesses have closed up and have gone home, and then the night traffic begins to happen around here and in other places. That's the time you have preventative undercover cops around and doing that. That would be the way to do it. There are some. We have options, though. So the first option would be to respectfully request consideration for help on this strip. And then, if it's not an option, there are several communities that I'm aware of. One is in Austin, Texas. The businessmen and women have formed their own little association. And what they do, and I know it's done here in Buffalo at some places because they hire off-duty cops. They actually hire security. Now, I'm not suggesting it because why should a business who's already paying the highest taxes in the state, in the city, in the county, you have to be forced then to pay for private security?
And that causes the damper with the enhancement of the business on the
But
streets.
it's something that if once we get frustrated to a point that we're going to do whatever we need to do, that's something that we would consider. I'm not recommending it. I'm just suggesting that I'm aware of it.
Right.
3 of our stores have armed security guards, and that should never be. We should never have to have that.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're talking about fixing buildings and whatnot. I'm already told that we already lost an opportunity for a business to move in. The plaza where Ames Hills, whatever used to be, is probably the worst part of this whole area.
What's that?
Yeah, that's an excuse I keep getting is because it falls between municipal boundaries that there's really no one has any say about. But we could have had, there's a new supermarket chain that came into town, PriceRite. Where else can you order that butter for $1.50? And it's an awesome place. I even asked They already knew what I was talking about. They said it's the place right across from the golf course. I said yes. They said they already went in there. They got help from the landlord. These people who own these properties, who live in other states, they are a problem more than anything else. Probably any of these problems. We could have had probably if not the best supermarket chain come to that building if it wasn't for these people who own these buildings. That's probably the biggest problem we have.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me answer it this way. The Ames Plaza, and some of us who've been around a little longer than we care to tell. Remember the days of Twin Fair?
Yeah.
So over I'm aware. Yeah. I'm aware of who the owner is. I've had conversations with him before. He's out of town owner.
Benderson still on it?
They keep changing phone numbers every time, it seems like.
Benderson doesn't.
He just sold it. He just sold
No, this owner has had the building for, I want to say, maybe 3 years or so.
Okay, good, that's when I heard.
And so, this owner is used to having property like this, and he's used to working with major retailers.
Okay.
Like Walmart and Target and Costco and places like that.
Great.
I think once he's made a determination that he may not be able to make that deal. Not really so much, although Seneca Street would be better if it was at its peak than kind of like right here that we're struggling.
So they're waiting?
But in any event, what's going to happen is there have been several inquiries that have been interested in the site. Now, I happen to think that could be an area of development for housing, particular senior housing, aging in place community where there's a lot of property there, and so you could have different mixed-use types of maybe ranches or bungalows, single floors, and then you may be able to have a place where when people are feeling that they can't handle themselves, that they could go into a place with have some care, and then eventually supervised care. So that's an option. Now, PriceRite. PriceRite is Wakefern. Wakefern is one of the largest grocery wholesalers in the United States of America, based out of New Jersey. PriceRite's operation is similar to an Aldi's, to Save-A-Lot. It's a box store, no frills, no thrills. It's my understanding that PriceRite was not interested in Ames, but was interested in another property on Seneca Street. And I don't know if it's alive or not, but I do know that Mr. Palladino is aware of it and is somebody that could be helpful in knowing what the status of PriceRite is. Okay.
Well, I talked to a manager directly, and they said they've already they tried talking to these people, and they basically had the door shut in their face on it. It's like they want something else there. But it's like for God's sakes, put something there within the next year or two. We've been waiting. It's been vacant for like 6, 7, 8 years, and it's just getting worse each day. To the point that putting a fence around, that's going to solve anything. And it just looks so awful. It's like it's a shame we have people coming in from out of town. They show you this is where we live.
John.
I've got a couple comments and then a question. Sure.